Okay. So in our last class, what we did was we were looking at some of the commonly used terms in the industry. We started with terms like, okay, so we started understanding some of the basic terms like SOW, statement of work, scope, what is a CR, what is meant by an elicitation process, what do we understand by business rules, environments, or environments also called as regions, what is estimation, and then we looked at different category of people involved, starting from stakeholders, SME, consultants to technical architects, development lead, and test lead. There are two more terms that were left, that is change management and defects, bugs, or issues. Okay, so we'll look at the first thing, that is change management. In simple words, change management is basically managing managing the changes that are needed in the product so that your work remains on track. That is all we are doing. We are ensuring that whatever changes are needed in the product, when I say product, and as I noted earlier, in the IT side, we keep using the terms application or software interchangeably. Okay, so it's not as if we refer to something extremely different. Loosely, application, products, and softwares are used interchangeably. So whenever there's a change in any existing application or software, all we are doing is we are ensuring that we are able to manage the work effectively. Okay. Now mostly change management lies under the purview of your project managers. Okay. So a project manager is majorly responsible for ensuring that the health of the project remains okay, or the health of the project remains on track. Now the last term that we have is, what do we understand by, or what we keep hearing, defect, bug, or issues. Okay. So what is meant by a defect, bug, or issue? Now I hope we all understand this term because we might have used it at some point in time in our day-to-day life as well. And the meaning with respect to IT is also similar. So what we say is, whenever there is a deviation between the expected and the actual result. Okay. So for example, let's say that I am at ATM, okay, and I want to withdraw 500 rupees. Okay, I'm at an ATM and I want to withdraw 500 rupees. Now, for this 500 rupees, suppose I punch in details. So I select the amount as 500 and then I entered my PIN. Everything is correct. But at the end, now when you punch in details, what will be my expected result? What will I expect? that ATM should give me 500 rupees. Suppose actual result is that instead of 500 rupees, ATM throws back 600 rupees. Now that is obviously something I was not expecting, because when I am keying in details as 500 rupees, I am expecting to get back 500 rupees, whereas the ATM is throwing back 600 rupees. So that is not in line with the expectation. The actual result is not in line with the expectation. So that is where in IT we say that a defect, a probable defect is there, because my expected result and my actual results are not matching. So the software is not working as expected. Okay. Now a defect could be found by different people. For example, when my QA when my QA is testing the application, okay, at that point they can find defects. They, as in QA, can find defects when they are testing the application. This is the state. This is the state that is considered ideal for any application development. Okay, this is the state where we want to find most of the defects. We don't want to go to the next stage that we are going to be discussing. The next stage of defect identification could be done by the customer or the client. Like we have built an application, we have built a software, and we have handed it over to the client that the application is ready, go and start using it. Now the client started using the application, and while using the application they identify some mismatch between the expected and the actual result. So customer or client, when using the application, can identify defects as well. Now this is not the ideal state. Okay, we never want any customer or any client to be aware of loopholes in our application, or especially in the application that we build. This may create a wrong impression. Okay, this may impact our image as well. So that is where this is not the ideal state where we want to find the defects, but that's a reality as well. In IT, not every defect is found during this stage when QA is doing the testing. Some of the defects are actually discovered by the client themselves. Okay. But what we want to do is we want to ensure that the defects which clients are uncovering are minimal. So assume that if I have 10 defects in my application, I would expect out of 10, 7 to 8 defects be uncovered here in this stage, and then only remaining 2 to 3 defects should go till here. So that if the defect count is minimal, at least I can convince client that most of the defects I found during my testing itself. So this is a more better stage. Now let me put it here as well. When I say ideal state, ideal is with respect to, is not that this is the place or this is the state where all the defects should be identified. When I say ideal state, this is ideal with respect to the IT company. Okay, for maintaining their brand, for maintaining their reputation. If I say that no defect was identified during the testing by QA team, and then even 2 to 3 defects were identified here, now that raises a question on the quality of testing that I am performing, that why nothing was identified in this stage. but few defects were identified here. Okay. Now keep all these terms in your mind, that we will keep using the terms stakeholders, SMEs, architects, a dev lead, test lead, defects, okay, and SOW, particularly scope, business rules, elicitations, environment, and estimation. They are like your day-to-day terms. So where on and off you will be discussing about all these terms over here. Okay. Now we'll move on to our next topic, and for our next topic, I want to show you an image. Yes. Now I need some input from you guys. When you see these images, certain images, there are five of them. So one, two, three, four, and five of them. So when looking at these five images, what do you understand, or what do you think is happening through these five images? Okay. You can unmute yourself to answer. You can even type in your responses. Good evolution of internet. Okay. Well, thanks Bhargav for the input. So we'll discuss it, and the hint was written actually on top of the slide. Revolution in technology sector. So the way we communicate, or the way we access information has been changing over last few decades. Okay. So maybe in the early 90s or till the late 90s, maybe writing letters to share information was the common thing. Okay? Then maybe from there we gradually started moving on to adopting internet. So when internet came, we started utilizing some of the uh, good applications that can be built on top of it. For example, like emails. Now instead of letters, we are using emails that can be exchanged digitally. So information could be transferred from one port to another port digitally. Okay, and we were able to communicate in a faster way. Now, as if communicating via emails were not enough, we then identified how can we potentially, okay, share information across people, like rather than restricting it to few people through emails. Maybe when you want to keep some privacy, you may utilize emails, but parallelly there was another adoption of websites, that we wanted to build websites through which we can publish information, and that information could be accessed by a substantial number of people. Okay. Now from websites, we then started realizing that people are now gradually inclining towards mobile phone usage, and then probably a better way could be to build mobile applications. So in today's world, you may not own a laptop or a desktop, but you will definitely have a mobile phone. So when you have a mobile phone, it makes more sense for all the businesses to have a corresponding mobile application as well that can be used by the end customers. Okay. Now technology is not stopping over there. We are now gradually progressing towards things like AI, artificial intelligence, and then how that can be incorporated in our day-to-day life so that we start using it. Okay. Now, over time, it is expected that technology will keep evolving further and more sophisticated and user-friendly technologies will evolve over time. Okay. Now, that's broadly the evolution part in the technology that has been happening for the last few decades and will continue to happen for the foreseeable future. Okay. Now, why are we discussing this? Why do I care what kind of evolution is happening in technology? Now, the reason for discussing this evolution is because we want to discuss a key concept. So, before getting into details of things like what is software development life cycle, how things happen in the IT industry, what are the different types of IT companies, how my team structure looks like, who all are the people that I'll be commonly working with in my team. Before discussing some of the basic concepts related to business analyst, it is good to understand the history of the role, that how the role of business analyst actually came into light. Okay. So now when technology evolves from one form to another form, you obviously want something from it to happen. So, what is that something? You want people to adopt the changing technology. For example, I'm building mobile application, but people are not using it. So, what's the point of building a mobile application? If there is if there is no adoption by the people, if they are not going to use it, then it's a waste of time for me, isn't it? I would have hired a bunch of developers and everyone. They would have written the code, we would have done the testing, the IT company, the client would have spent huge amount of money in getting a mobile application for the customer, but the customer is not willing to use it. Okay. Now that's not an ideal scenario. We want, whenever the technology is evolving, what we want is we want people to start using that technology. Okay. Nowadays the trends are shifting towards artificial intelligence, but suppose starting tomorrow, if you and I stop using things like Chat GPT or Google's Gemini or Microsoft's Bard, if we stop using all of these AI related tools that are currently available to us, and then get back to traditional way of doing things, that is taking help from each other, finding out answers on Google, and then scrutinizing manually through all the options that the Google gives to identify which question is actually answer, which website is answering my question. So if we start doing all that manually, probably AI will not have a future. If people are not going to adapt to the changing technological landscape, there is no future for such technologies. So what we want is, whenever there's a changing landscape, we want people to start using it. If people are not using it, how am I going to make money? See, imagine Google. Google was giving search engine for free. Why it was giving search engine for free? We all know that, so that it can collect data on what type of search we are doing, how often we are making searches, what category of searches we are making, so that it can utilize that data for targeted advertisements. Okay, it was, though Google was not making money from us directly, Google was making money from businesses because it will allow them to advertise, but later it switched that advertisement to targeted advertisement. Okay. So that is why most of the things are doing now. Why do AI systems offer lot of things for free? Because they want lot of data that they can use for training their systems. And how do you get data? When you offer something for free to people, they will start using your application, they will start giving you the data. So once you have data, your AI system will become much more smarter. Now, when we want people to adopt to this changing technology, we want one key initiative. What we want is we want to build a user friendly application. Okay. We also want to ensure that we get near about accurate results. Means I can also put it as less number of defects. That whenever I open my application to do any specific task, let's say that 90% of the time I'm able to do the task. That maybe 10% of the time there are some defects, outages, downtime, server issues. Okay, maybe 10% of the time, but 90% of the time I'm able to do the task that I want to do using the application that I have. Okay, now when you want to achieve these two things in perspective for any application, what happens is you need a business analyst. So does it mean that business analyst is the only person who is responsible for making the applications? Absolutely no. But business analyst is the person to get you started. Okay. So suppose in order to drive a car, you may require various components. For example, you must have access to the car, that is, you must have keys of the car. Petrol must be available in sufficient quantity in your car, petrol or diesel, if you want to go for long drives. Then what may also happen is that the tires of the car and the car should be in the working condition. So there are different conditions that must be satisfied in order to drive a car. But for all those conditions to be satisfied, the starting point is the driver, the person. The driver will search for the car. The driver will ensure that if there is not enough fuel, petrol or diesel in the car, they will take the car to the petrol pump, fill the petrol or the diesel in the car. If any of the part is not working correctly, they may take the car to the service station to get it repaired as well. Okay, so there are different category of people taking care of different type of work, but the person, the driver, is the same thing. So that is where I'm emphasizing that in the IT industry, maybe you will have a developer who will write the code, maybe you will have a QA who will do the testing, maybe you will have architects who will do the technical design for any software you want to build. But the driver among all this is the BA. Okay, BA will ensure that they get started with the project, they get the requirements for others to get started. So that's the one aspect of why we require a business analyst. The evolving trend in technology demands that the technology must be user friendly, demands that technology must give near about accurate results, or less number of defects must be present. Okay, that's one part of the evolution. Now, why we need a business analyst? There is another small segment attached to it, that is, in the earlier days, maybe three till 3 decades back. Okay, so till 3 decades back, client and developers were interacting directly. Now There was no concept as such of a BA getting involved in between to handle the requirements, to extract requirements, to communicate information between relevant parties, to ensure that things are progressing as expected. There was no BA involved as such. It was clients working directly with the developers. Now, there were certain advantages and there were certain disadvantages associated with this model. For example, advantages include things like, now when you don't have multiple layers involved in any work, you will see that the work is delivered faster. For example, if my client is directly talking to developer, if there is no BA involved in between, chances are that developer will directly start writing code. Whatever software is developed, the testers will test it and we will get results in no time. So if I involve multiple layers, maybe it may take 10 days to get the work done. But if I eliminate few layers, maybe I can get the work done in 7 days. Okay, so definitely I'm saving on time because I'm getting the work done in lesser amount of time. Okay, the second advantage associated with this is, now it is understood and accepted by everyone that when there are multiple hands involved, there is obviously chances of loss of information. For example, I may tell you that go out to the market. When you go out, buy a mobile phone for me. After that, maybe buy some grocery items. After that, you go out and buy some clothes as well. Maybe I'll give you three broader tasks, and then within those three categories, I'll give you specific tasks as well. Maybe within grocery, I may ask you to bring in milk, curd, and some rice, maybe, let's say. So chances are when there are multiple hands involved, suppose I delegate this task to you, that you must do it. Then what you do is you delegate this task further and that person delegates it to another person. Suppose A hands over task to B, okay? Then B, instead of doing task, does something and then hands over remaining task to C. C will do few things and then hands over remaining task to D. Now, when there are multiple hands involved, what may happen is chances are you may skip or miss few tasks. Okay. So when there are less hands involved, like A is giving instructions to B and then B is taking care of all these things. Now in this scenario, there are less chances of loss of information and there are high chances of loss of information here. Okay, so another advantage that happened was when you don't have multiple people involved in between, the loss of information becomes minimal. Okay, client is directly communicating requirements to the developer. Developer knows what needs to be developed, and they'll build applications as per the requirements. Okay, less number of people, less chances of losing information. Now, though there were certain pros involved in this particular model, there were definitely cons associated with it as well. Okay. Now, what these cons were, now understand that A client, a stakeholder is not a technical person. Okay. A stakeholder is not a technical person, so they may not understand the exact technicalities of what is needed, how much needed. And a developer is not a business person. A developer basically talks in terms of codes. A developer at the end of the day wants to write a code. Okay. If I want to write a code, I must have exact requirement right in front of me. Until other than that, I'll not be able to write code. Okay. So the discussions that were happening, they were not actually favoring one of the person. Now a developer may want to ask questions like, what do you want the application to do? A client may not have exact response to it, and a developer does not know how to extract specific responses from the client. So a developer may be asking that, I'll give you first option file here. If you click on file, you will get more options. Okay. Now, do you want this open option? Suppose this open option should be present in file or should be present under edit menu. Where this open option should be present? Now, a developer may want to ask this question so that they can accordingly make the coding. But a client may not be exactly aware which where will it make more sense. Will it make more sense to have open under file category, or will it make more sense to have open option under edit category? So some of these discussions that were happening between the client and the developers, they were not favoring one party or the other. Okay. A developer wanted to have answers specific to their coding questions. A client is not the right person for that. A client wanted to have discussions on the business aspect. Well, developer may not be the right person to do it. Okay. Then the second issue with this model was that a developer's main task is to write code that can fulfill the requirements. Okay, I'm not against developers saying that why are they not doing documentation, but that is not their major responsibility. So their major responsibility is writing code that can fulfill the requirements. So there was not enough documentation created while building the software. Like, why are we writing this code? What's the reason behind it? What kind of requirement are we trying to fulfill? As a result of this, what happens is many a times we want to redesign applications, we want to write applications in a better way, or we want to make changes in an application to make it much more efficient. But the problem is we don't have any documentation. So what happens in such scenarios is we rely on developers again, in today's developers, that go through the code, give me an analysis of the code. Once you understand the code, write down your analysis in the form of a document, share that document to the management so that management can decide what this code is doing, whether it makes sense to redesign this code or make changes in the code to make it more efficient. See, so we are unnecessarily wasting time. We cannot take direct decisions. Why? Because there is no documentation available. So we have to spend a lot of time in doing this analysis first. Whereas there was another issue as such, okay, and that particular issue was related to user-friendly designs. Okay, so all that was happening is a developer is majorly focused about getting the software delivered to the client. Okay, writing code out of it. A developer is not really worried about how user friendly the software is. Okay, so that's where we have some design thinking classes and other relevant concepts propping up to ensure that developers are also thinking about the the user friendly aspects of the software they build. But earlier days there was not much emphasis on how do you build a software. So you may see lot of batch applications, there is less of user interface. Okay, you may see instead of having these three menu options, you may see all the options present within one. Okay, so there was, the software was there, the software was working as expected as well, but it was not user friendly. Now, another aspect of giving you an example of user friendly, let me open Google Chrome and let me open Amazon. Okay, now imagine yourself that this particular search option is here right at the top. Okay, now it is easy to access, it is easy to locate. Now imagine if this option of the search bar is not here at the top. In fact, it is there at the bottom of the page. Now imagine if I have to scroll all the way down to the end of the page to locate that option of search. Okay. Now most of the time what would happen is, if I don't see search option right in front of my eyes, I will not use it. I may even complain that search is not at all there. But if you look carefully, the search is there right at the bottom of the page. But because it is not visible directly, we don't use it. We often complain it. So that's an example of a non-user friendly designs. So when the developers were taking care of building the softwares by themselves, all such things were happening, that the designs were less user friendly. Now, whenever designs are less user friendly, what will happen? We will see that people are not adopting to the changing technology. Whereas what we want is, whatever application we are building, people must start using it. If they are not using it, how will my client make money? If my client does not make money, then how are they going to pay the IT company? Okay. So these two aspects, if you combine it, client and developers working directly, what the pros were, what the cons were. So cons were definitely overwhelmingly more as compared to pros. So if you take into consideration the first aspect, if you take into consideration the second aspect, that clients and developer probably they don't want to work directly with each other, plus the technology was evolving. Okay, and what happens is, for all this, at the end you get result as, you need a BA, a business analyst. Now I'll take a pause over here and see if there are any questions so far from you guys. Okay, I'll take the silence as no questions. We'll move forward. Now you guys must be thinking that, what's the point of knowing all this history? What's the point of knowing all this history? We have a business analyst role right in front of us, and we all want to do that. So since you guys would probably be working as a BA for the first time, these topics are actually designed to actually sensitize the importance of being a BA, a business analyst. Okay, we often get directly into the fact that, okay, I'll talk to clients, I'll gather requirements, I'll get started, don't worry, I'll communicate on time, I'll take care of all the responsibilities that are delivered to me. But before even jumping onto what is your roles and responsibility, you must first understand how this role came into picture, what's the importance of the role, Once you understand importance of anything, no one will have to run behind you. Okay, you will automatically understand the important aspect of your work, that why a BA is important, what kind of value a BA is delivering, and you will automatically strive towards it. You will automatically be working towards it. Then understanding or relating my roles and responsibilities becomes easy. If I directly tell you roles and responsibility, it is more like memorizing things. But you may not understand why I am doing these roles and responsibilities. Why not something else? Why I'm not doing project management work? Why am I not doing coding and all that stuff? Okay. Now gradually, when BA role was created, it evolved over time. Okay, maybe in the starting days you just wanted to address the cons that are presented. Okay, so for example, in the starting days you wanted someone to interact with your stakeholders, clients, and get and talk to them from a business perspective, assess the effectiveness of the work they want to do, and then create designs before we hand over any coding activity. Ensure that appropriate number of documents are created, specifically what we call as requirement documents, that you create these requirement documents so that you can use it in future as well. Okay, if I have a requirement document with me, if I want to make any changes in the software in future, I can always refer to the requirement document. The requirement document will serve as a good starting point to understand what the software is doing, under what circumstances, how the software is supposed to behave. Okay, if I want any changes, probably what other fields could get impacted. Okay, so when the BA came, the lack of documentation was addressed by creating requirement documents mainly. A coding focused document changed to business driven documents, sorry, business driven discussions. Now a BA, being the word, for the word that is called business being included in their designation, now is driving business related discussions with the client. For example, why you want to build a software, what is the advantage you are going to get after building the software, what changes do you expect in the customers after the software is built. Okay, a BA is focused on these kind of discussions to assess the importance first. Remember, once you understand why something is important, no one needs to convince you to do some work. If you understand, you will automatically do it. See, I may tell you 100 times that you should go and cast your vote, and you may say that, yeah, Rahul, we will go this time. Whenever election happens, we will definitely go and cast our votes. Now, rather than me instructing you what you need to do, if I tell you about the importance of casting your vote, then I don't have to tell you anything else. You will automatically be keeping track of when the elections will happen, what are the dates, and you will book your tickets in advance if you have to travel to your hometown. Okay, so if I educate you about the importance of something, and once you are in line that yes, this is important, you will automatically start doing it. Okay, so the same thing happens with the BA as well, that they want to first understand why the software needs to be built, what advantage is it going to offer to us, how is it going to change the lives of the customer, in what sense the customer will be using it. Once I'm aware of all these things, I am able to make better informed decisions when it comes to writing documents, when it comes to creating or helping or reviewing user friendly designs. Okay, now one of the tasks that BAs also did was initially that is wireframing, or creating a flow chart of how the application will look like. Or if there was no document around designs, they would at least sit with developer and then guide the developer on how we should be creating our application. Okay. Now over time this aspect has evolved a lot. So earlier, like, you would have BA plus developer working towards creating a design, okay, with BA being the driver. Now in the IT industry, and at least I have seen most of the companies, they have introduced another role of UI UX developer. Okay, so whenever BA is writing down requirements and they want to show to the stakeholder that, how are we going to translate these requirements into a software design, how the software is going to look like, what option will be present where, what will be the color of the application, what will be the font size of the application. If they want to give a demo, okay, demo of the dummy software, we may often refer to it as dummy software because it is not the actual software, it is just a design of the software. So now you have dedicated members called UI UX, okay, where UI stands for user interface and use UX stands for user experience. Okay, so we have people who specialize in the UI UX part. The BA works with them to create the design, the look and feel of the software. Works with UI UX developer of the software. Okay. So earlier, BA was responsible for designing the look and feel, or maybe BA will take help from developer, or BA and developer will brainstorm, will work together to create the look and feel, the design of the software, how the software is going to look like. Gradually, it was identified that, a developer is more skilled in writing code, in building real time applications. A BA is more skilled in talking to or communicating with the stakeholders, driving business discussions, getting the requirements, communicating the requirements with the stakeholders, okay, keeping a track of changing landscape. So we want someone who is much more skilled towards the design part alone. So some of the IT companies, they may employ UI UX people. These UI UX people, they specialize in creating the look and feel of the software. Plus the specialization is to make this software user friendly. Okay. Now I'm not saying that every IT company will have UI UX developer. They may not. People who are much more serious about ensuring their application being absolutely user friendly, they will definitely have UI UX developer. People who are ready to compromise on the user friendly aspects, they may ask a BA and developer to work together to create a design. Okay, either ways, it does not matter. For industry, it will keep moving forward, the software will keep developing. Okay, but we must have this concept in mind as well. Now BA and developer working together may create the design, but ultimately we will also have QA as well, a quality analyst who will be testing the application that the developer is building. Okay, now for all these people that are present, at the top you may have a project manager. Okay, who will be ensuring, like I said, who will be doing the activity of change management. What is the change management? That is keeping track of the progress of the work. Okay, so you have a project manager sitting at the top who is ensuring that everyone is doing what is expected. Then you have BA, developer, and QA. These three could be working together, or you may have a UI UX developer as well in your team. So these four could be working together. This is what broadly your team will look like. Either the first one, or the second one. Okay, now in the upcoming classes, we will look at these aspects again in detail. We will see how a technical architect fits into this entire structure, how client fits into this entire structure. But from an IT perspective, let's say this is how majorly your team will look like. Okay, now obviously I have put as a business analyst, you will be addressing the three major concerns, but understand that these are from the initial phases. As of today, the role of BA has improved or changed significantly, and as we discussed in the upcoming classes, we will again lay down foundations. Like today, we covered the topic of importance of BA, or how the role of BA was created. In the upcoming classes, we will talk about the different types of IT companies and what happens before a BA gets involved. Okay, so we'll first clear out some of the basic understanding from our way. Once we have this basic understanding developed, it may take around next 5 to 7 classes for us to do this. Once the basic understanding is developed, then we will gradually move towards the technical topics of stakeholder management, requirements, requirement elicitation, flow charts, prioritization, Moscow technique, and all those aspects. Then gradually moving on to the Scrum part, the user stories, epics, what estimation techniques are used, what is meant by the product backlog grooming, how do we manage product backlog, and then understanding Jira as well. Okay, so we'll take it step by step approach, build the basics, build the foundation, then build the technical topics, then gradually move on to the Scrum related topics. Now, any questions so far?
Rahul, are we going to cover the impact of Gen AI?
Yes, we already did that, Gangadhar, in our
Yeah.
first three demo classes.
Okay. So
So I think,
okay. Okay.
yeah, it was in the third demo class. Maybe
Okay.
we'll
I'll
share the
revisit that. Yeah. Sure.
guys. Also note that most of these sessions, when we start discussing whether it is about softer aspects like what kind of soft skills are needed by a business analyst, or when we are discussing the technical topics, I'll be sharing from my experience how things are working on ground. Okay, plus some of the things that you guys must do as business analysts. For example, how do I take notes? How should I change my style of writing emails? How should I change my style of conducting meetings? Okay, because people may tell you that these are the technical concepts, this is how it is implemented, but we will also try to cover, and as we progress through our training program, I'll also try to cover the soft skills related part. Okay, I may not tell you the exact grammar, the exact articulation part, but how should you conduct yourself when writing emails, when writing meeting notes, or when actually talking to clients about handling some of the difficult aspects as well. Okay. Any if there are no questions for today, we can end our discussion for today. We'll connect tomorrow. Okay, thank you everyone. We'll connect tomorrow at the same time.